Let's keep going. No! Yo, welcome to the show, and today I'm reviewing Cosmodread. It's a VR survival horror game developed by indie developer White Door Games, and guys, I am once again getting convinced that VR is going to be the best platform for scary games. Cosmodread is a roguelike inspired game as well, so despite beating the game a couple times in a little over 6 hours, I'm continuing to try and beat new playthroughs by adding difficulty modifiers and trying to survive its ever-changing world. I can't wait to tell you about my experiences in it. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button below if you're new to the channel and join me for all my future reviews. And let's check out Cosmodread. What up? Thanks for joining me. And I mentioned that the developer White Door Games was an indie developer, but that can mean a lot of different things, right? What's cool about White Door is it's a super small game studio, and aside from some of the artwork and audio, the game was completely designed by one guy, the owner of the company. This had me super excited to jump in. I love seeing small developers have the freedom to be as creative as they want and take risks and try to actually create a game that meets the vision that they have for it. And it was selling for only $15 at launch. So there was no way I wasn't gonna jump in and check it out. And I'm glad I did, because the game is dope, and it's just killer to see small indie developers like White Door in the VR space putting out badass games. So let's dig into it. And we'll start things off talking about its gameplay. Cosmodread was immediately intense for me. You begin aboard a derelict ship with limited supplies and an equally limited inventory as you scrounge around to grab any important items that you hope can keep you alive. I hadn't even left the first room you start in, and the game had me anxiously checking over my shoulder at the sound of something behind the room door or crawling within the ship's walls. I started slowly making my way through its corridors. There were power issues, leaving many of its rooms pitch black, and some were even infested with this strange alien organism. I could walk on it, but stayed away from certain areas that were pulsating, almost breathing it seemed like. I was getting close to my first objective, and that's when I had my first encounter. After entering about the fourth room in, one of the grates behind me exploded off of the wall, and this long, alien tentacle slowly emerged out from it. I backed away as fast as I could, but it was too late. It had whipped towards me and instantly took away over half my health. The only way was forward, so I ran into the next room, collected myself, used an oxygen tank to refill my air supply, and pressed on. The next corridor was no safer, however. I opened the door and was greeted by this fleshy, human-like abomination. It started running towards me, swinging its arms violently. I backed up and started running from it until I found myself back in the previous room with the tentacle. I was sandwiched between them and frantically shooting my crossbow at the alien chasing me until I finally killed it. It was too late though. I had retreated too far into the room, and the tentacle attacked me again from behind, and I was dead. And that was my first playthrough, guys. I didn't know what to expect jumping into this game, but wow, I was immediately hooked and immediately jumped right into my next game. I mentioned it's roguelike as well, so every playthrough starts you at the very beginning with nothing carried over from previous playthroughs. The entire world, all its items and enemies and locations spawn in completely new locations, making it a different challenge every time. And I wanted to take you through my first encounter because despite starting every game fresh in a brand new world, there is one thing I got to take with me into my next game, and that's what I had learned from previous playthroughs. I'm not going to get into any specifics though, because this is actually one of the super enjoyable aspects of the game. Discovering how things work and learning how to survive was absolutely incredible, guys. The game doesn't hold your hand either. You have to use logic, experiment, and take risks while you're playing. And even if I died in the end, it always paid off big time for me. Every time I restarted a game, I felt more empowered to survive my next attempt, and it was straight up badass. The ship you're on is completely powered down and overrun, so your main mission is to survive long enough to bring it back online and use its jump drive to get back to Earth. The survival mechanics are great too. You have to keep oxygenated and maintain your health, and you can upgrade your character with armor and weapons that you either find or craft along the way as you loot for specific materials that are strung throughout the ship. I found all the different weapons really fun to use too. There's a crossbow, pistol, shotgun, an electric burst gun that's rechargeable, and a bunch of cool grenades and distraction tools you can use against the enemies. The enemies are fantastic too. They're like a blend between necromorphs and the Thing. Very fleshy, very disgusting, and there's a killer variety that you'll have to fight against as you traverse through the ship. It can get difficult too. There were playthroughs I thought I had in the bag where I'd end up dying, and others that I thought I'd never finish, but somehow survived. And that's probably one of the most rewarding aspects of the game. It's challenging as hell, but taking the time to employ everything that you've learned about the world and strategically outsmarting it to get past something or finish an objective just felt so damn good. And once you get really good at surviving, the game has cool modifiers you can apply on future playthroughs that really increase the difficulty and provide a fun challenge. Honestly, guys, I felt like I was Isaac on the Ishimura. It was nerve-wracking as much as it was glorious, and I loved it. I'm giving gameplay 5 out of 5 stars. Let's hit the graphics next, and these were a big mix. Without a doubt, the monsters in the game were the highlight for me. They're just gruesome as hell, and the way each one moves around and attacks you is unique and made each encounter super intense. The actual design of the ship is really well done too, and the use of light, shadow, and mist created a killer vibe that made me feel really vulnerable as I creeped through its rooms and corridors. Unfortunately, it also lacks visually in a lot of ways. The textures aren't great, there were a lot of low-res objects and overall things that just felt pretty boxy. I did like some aspects of that where it had this 70s and 80s sci-fi design, but it just lacked in detail too much to really impress. So, not a bad looking game, but just doesn't wow either. I'm giving graphics 3 out of 5 stars. Audio's up next, and this was awesome, guys. There's not really a soundtrack for the game apart from the title screen music. You do get some heart-pounding, tension-inducing music that'll kick in momentarily during really scary encounters, but for the most part, you're left alone with nothing but the awesome sounds of the ship and all its terrors waiting for you in its next room. So yeah, sound effects are next, and those are great. Some do have a bit of a low quality free sample sound to them, but they're totally forgiven by how well the game brings its haunting ship to life. The low hum of its hull, vents decompressing all around you, the vintage beeping of your oxygen tracker letting you know you're low on air, and the horrifying thud or scratching of enemies in the walls or growling in an adjacent room. The sounds of each enemy are very distinct too, so you can really use that to your advantage based on what you're hearing in the next room and how low your health is or what your ammo situation looks like. My only real complaint in this category was the voice acting on some of the audio tapes you find. They just lacked the emotion I think would have been expressed considering what the hell was going down on the ship. Definitely a missed opportunity there in my opinion, but overall, audio was kick-ass. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. Story's up next, and this was for sure the weakest aspect of the game for me. It's designed for you to find holotapes and text logs as you do multiple playthroughs, but even after 6 hours and even a few times finishing the game, I really feel like it's just lacking in this department. What was there I enjoyed, but it was never enough to get me immersed into its world. There wasn't any characters to get invested in or care about, and I never felt part of it in any meaningful way. Without spoiling anything, the ship you're on encountered a jump drive error, where it got launched out to an unknown location in space and ended up getting overrun by some sort of alien organism. From there, you're left to try and survive while bringing the ship back online so you can get back home to Earth. And to me, that's a great setup. And there's some pretty interesting details you learn along the way through multiple playthroughs. But yo, it desperately needed some good characters and world building, possibly a cutscene or two or an audio log that really set things up better in the beginning. And if it wanted to be amazing, a morally gray decision or two that you'd be forced to make during the game. Unfortunately, it's just super bare bones. So, lots to be desired here, guys. I'm giving story 2 out of 5 stars. Last up are settings, and we'll start with the movement options, which are located under locomotion, and everything that you need is here. You get teleport, smooth, and dash under movement modes. You can select your hand or head for directional steering, and you get some rotation and primary hand options below. So everything here was great. Video and graphic options are next, which were definitely lacking. You only get one quality dial for graphics. It does have a bunch of different levels to select from, but you can't actually get in and tweak anything if you need to. You also get resolution and AA options below. Moving on to audio, which was all right, you get 2 dials, a master and a music and ambience dial, which was fine, honestly. Would I prefer music and ambience to be separated? Yes, but based on how often you actually hear music or dialogue in the game, it worked fine. Lastly, let's hit the gameplay options, which are located under preferences, and these were all right. There's no colorblind options, but you do get to choose which hand you want your bracelet to be on that tracks your health, oxygen, and mini-map in the game, and you get to choose if you want to play standing or seated. So, like most VR games, it hits most everything it should, despite a few weird decisions or a thing or two missing. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. All right, let's give it a final score. And despite some of the missed opportunities that I mentioned, story-wise and graphically, Cosmodread is a solid VR sci-fi horror experience, guys. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars. If you have a VR system, pick this game up, yo. It's absolutely worth your time and money, especially if you're a fan of scary games. And for only 15 bucks, not only do you get a ton of awesome game time with its roguelike design, but you're also supporting a kick-ass indie developer. Cosmodread! Pick that shit up, guys. You won't regret it. Thanks again for joining me today. Subscribe, like, and leave a comment below. And there's gonna be a Patreon link that pops up here in just a second if you wanna support the channel. I would love your support, and I will see you on the next Gurhm's Garage. GG.